Inside the mind of the married man who can't forget you. Do you know what's more intriguing? A married man who should be completely focused on his life suddenly can't stop thinking about you. Sounds crazy, right? But more happens than you think. He's there on the couch next to his wife watching TV, and guess who invades his mind? You. And you know the most impressive thing? The more he tries to forget you, the more you take up space in his head. It's almost like an addiction, an obsession he didn't ask to have, but that simply took over. Carl Jung explained it in a way that will make your jaw drop. There is a powerful psychological mechanism behind it, and when you understand how it works, you will realize the power it has over his mind. Look, in this video, I'm going to reveal to you the 8 secrets of Jungian psychology that explain why you became absolutely unforgettable to him. It may seem strange, but you are engraved in it in a way that even he cannot explain. 1. The ghost that lives in his memory. There is something fascinating going on in this married man's unconscious, and he probably doesn't even realize the extent of it. Jung called it an autonomous complex, but I'll explain it to you in a simpler way. You have become a constant presence in his mind, functioning almost like a ghost that appears at the most unexpected moments. It's not something he consciously controls, it's much deeper than that. As he's driving to work, his voice echoes in his head. When you're in an important meeting, you suddenly remember that laugh of yours, in the shower, in traffic, before bed. You're there, and do you know why? Because you touched layers of his psyche that had been dormant for years. You awakened something that the marriage routine had completely buried. The human mind works in a curious way. The more we try to suppress a memory or feeling, the more energy we give it. That's exactly what happens to him. Every time you think, I need to stop thinking about her, you're actually reinforcing your presence. It's like saying to yourself right now, don't think of a pink elephant. Impossible not to, right? Jung discovered that certain people activate dormant archetypes within us. You are not just a woman who crossed his path. You represent something much bigger in his unconscious. It can be the adventure he never had, the passion that was lost over time, or that version of himself that was forgotten under the responsibilities. His marriage became a predictable routine. Waking up, working, coming home, having dinner, watching television, sleeping. Always the same thing, always the same standard. Then you come along and break that pattern completely. You brought unpredictability, emotion, that butterflies in his stomach that he hadn't felt in decades. And this is engraved in his emotional memory in such an intense way that he simply cannot erase it. There's more. The brain associates you with moments of high emotional charge. It may have been a deep conversation, a different look, a moment of real connection. These experiences are marked with a much greater intensity than the daily interactions he has with his wife. That's why you stand out so much in his memory. That's why he can't forget you even if he wants to. And the more he tries to rationalize this, thinking, I'm married, I have commitments, this is wrong, the more his unconscious rebels. Because the unconscious does not understand morals, right or wrong, should or should not. The unconscious only knows that you represent something vital that is missing in its life, and it will continue to bring you to the surface until it faces this truth. 2. When the forbidden becomes irresistible. Jungian psychology reveals something shocking about human desire. What we cannot have gains a disproportionate value in our mind. And with this married man, it happens exactly that in relation to you. The impossibility of being with you does not diminish his interest. On the contrary, it multiplies it by 10. Think with me. When something is easily available, we don't even value it that much. But when there is a barrier, an impediment, a prohibition, it becomes magically more attractive. It is human nature functioning in the most primitive way possible. And in his case, the barrier is huge. The marriage, the family, the commitments, the whole society telling him he can't want you. But there is an important detail. This prohibition does not kill desire. it feeds it. Every time he thinks, "I can't," his unconscious translates as, "I want even more." It is a mechanism of internal rebellion that Jung studied deeply. The human psyche doesn't like to be repressed, and when it is, it finds ways to manifest itself even more strongly. You represent everything that his life does not allow. The spontaneity that marriage has lost, the passion that became an obligation, the freedom that was exchanged for security. When he looks at you, he doesn't just see a woman. He sees all the possibilities he gave up when he said yes at the altar. And that's extremely powerful. His wife is there every day, available, predictable, part of the routine. There's no mystery, there's no achievement, there's not that taste of adventure. You, on the other hand, are the forbidden fruit, hanging right in front of him, but which he cannot pick. And the more forbidden, the sweeter this fruit seems. Jung talked about the shadow, that part of us that we repress to fit into society. In this man's case, you have become the embodiment of his shadow. You represent all the desires he had to bury to be the responsible husband, the present father, the serious professional. But the shadow does not disappear just because we ignore it. It is still there, pulsating, asking to be seen. And there's something even deeper going on. His brain releases dopamine every time he thinks of you, precisely because he can't have you. It's the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. The remote possibility, combined with the emotional reward, creates a powerful cycle. He's literally addicted to the idea of you. The uncomfortable truth is that if he could have you easily, interest would probably wane over time. But since you can't because there is this giant barrier between you, you remain eternally idealized in his mind. You will never disappoint because it will never become routine. You will never have the problems of everyday life. You will never lose your shine. You're frozen in his memory as something perfect and unattainable. If this touched you, it's because that connection is real. But the real question is why it still grips you. The link to the Jung method is pinned in the first comment. 3. The woman he can't have, but he can't let go. Here's the cruelest paradox in the whole situation. This married man knows rationally that he can't have you, but emotionally he can't let you go. It is a psychological torture that Jung would describe as a conflict between persona and true self. His social mask says one thing, but the authentic being screams something else entirely. During the day, he plays the role of faithful husband perfectly. He kisses his wife before leaving for work, sends affectionate messages, participates in the decisions of the house. But inside, there is a battle going on. There's you, occupying a space that should be empty, refusing to leave even when he tries to push you out of thoughts. The point is that you are not just a passing distraction or a silly whim. You messed with deep layers of his identity. Maybe you saw in him something that even his wife doesn't see anymore. Maybe you've awakened a version of him that had been dead for years, and when someone shows us who we really are or who we could be, it creates a connection that goes far beyond the superficial. Jung understood that certain human connections touch on what he called the soul, not in the religious sense, but in that essential core of being. You touched his soul, and that doesn't go away with willpower. It's no use repeating mantras about commitment and responsibility, because what you've awakened is at a level where logic can't reach. There are nights when he stays awake next to his wife, staring at the ceiling, thinking about you. Imagining conversations that will never happen, alternative scenarios where you could be together, parallel versions of his life where he made different choices. And each time you do that, you become more real in his mind than the reality around him. The most fascinating thing is that he probably created an idealized version of you. He filled in the gaps of what he does not know with projections of what he wants. You've become part fantasy, part reality, a mix that makes it impossible to compete. His wife is real, with real flaws, real routine, real problems. You exist on a different plane, where everything is possibility and potential, and the more time passes, the harder it gets to let go. Because now you're not just you, you've become a symbol of the life he didn't live, the choices he didn't make, the passion he let die. Giving up on you would be like giving up all these possibilities at once, definitively accepting that that vibrant version of yourself will never exist. He knows he should forget you. Friends would say that, therapy would say that, his own conscience says that. But there is an abyssal difference between knowing what you should do and actually being able to do it. You have settled in a corner of his mind that is beyond the reach of reason, in a territory where only the heart rules. And there you remain, untouchable, unforgettable. 4. The void that only you fill. Inside this married man, there is an emptiness that he didn't even know was there until you showed up. Jung called this incompleteness, that feeling that something essential is missing even when we have everything we should want. This man has a wife, he has a family, he has stability, but he continues to feel that something vital is missing, and that something has your face. His life was running on autopilot before you. I woke up, fulfilled responsibilities, returned home, repeated everything the next day. He was not necessarily unhappy, he was just existing without really living. So you crossed paths with him and showed that there is a huge difference between being alive and feeling alive. You brought something that his marriage failed to offer a long time ago. Real presence, that genuine attention, that real interest, that look that says, I really see you. His wife looks at him and sees her husband, the provider, the father of the children. You have looked and seen the man behind all these papers, and that changed everything. Jung understood that we seek in the other what is dormant in ourselves. This man saw in you the embodiment of your own lost vitality. When it is close to you, even if only in thought, it reconnects with parts of yourself that have been buried under years of routine and obligations. You are like a mirror that reflects the version of him that he misses. His marriage became too comfortable, too predictable, too safe. And in all this security, something essential died. The desire, the curiosity, that butterflies in the stomach of not knowing exactly what comes next. You brought all of that back, as if you had flipped a switch that had been off for decades. There's something about the way you exist in the world that resonates deeply with something in it. It can be your laughter, your way of thinking, the way you see life. Whatever it is, it has created a harmony that he does not find in anyone else. And when you find someone who vibrates at the same frequency as you, it's almost impossible to turn that connection off. The hard truth to swallow is that his wife fills many important roles: life partner, mother of children, financial partner. But there's a specific kind of loneliness that happens when you're with someone who doesn't understand you at the deepest level. It is possible to be married and still feel completely alone in one's essence, until you show up. With you, even in brief conversations or casual encounters, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, someone truly understanding who he is beneath the social masks. You validated parts of it that were invisible to the rest of the world. And when someone does that, when someone makes us feel seen and understood, it creates an emotional need that is hard to ignore. Now he lives with this hole that is exactly his shape. Nothing else fits there. He can try to fill it with work, with hobbies, even trying to improve the marriage. But it's like trying to cram a square piece into a triangular space. It just doesn't work. You've opened up a space within him that only you can occupy, and that's one of the most powerful reasons he can't forget you. 5. Why doesn't the wife take his place? I need to tell you something that may seem harsh, but it's the psychological reality of this situation. You and his wife occupy completely different spaces in his mind, and it has nothing to do with which of the two is better or worse. It has to do with what each one represents in the male unconscious according to Jung. His wife carries the weight of reality. It is associated with bills to pay, discussions about which school to put the children in, decisions about home renovation, day-to-day stress. Over the years, their relationship has turned into a practical partnership much more than a romantic connection. And this is normal, it happens in most long marriages, but it leaves a huge emotional void. You, on the other hand, exist in a different space. It does not have the weight of real obligations, real accounts, real problems. You represent lightness, possibility, that feeling of starting something new, and his brain naturally gravitates to where there is less weight and more pleasure. It's that simple. Jung talked about the anima, that image of the ideal feminine that every man carries within himself. His wife, after years of living together, stopped being the anima and became just the wife. It seems cruel to put it that way, but that's what happens. It has become part of the emotional furniture of his life. You, however, have activated this archetypal image of the mysterious, fascinating, possibility-filled feminine. With his wife, he knows exactly what to expect. You know how she will react, what she will say, even how she will breathe during the night. There is no more surprise, there is no more discovery. Everything has already been mapped, explored, known. With you, there is uncharted territory, and this is extremely attractive to the human psyche. The emotional connection with his wife was replaced by a logistical connection over the years. They function well as a team, as life partners, but they have lost that spark of seeing each other as desirable and interesting beings. They became well-organized roommates. You came in and showed that there is still fire inside him, that he is still able to feel that intensity. Also, you don't charge anything from him. It does not require you to take out the trash, to remember your wedding anniversary, to attend school meetings. You exist in a space where he can just be, without playing the role of the ideal husband. And this freedom is incredibly seductive. With you, he doesn't have to be responsible. He can just exist. The wife knows all his faults, all his weaknesses. She saw him sick, she saw him fail, she saw him in the ugliest moments of life. You saw only the best sides, or at least different sides. With you, he can maintain the illusion of being a better version of himself. And no one wants to give up that feeling. There is also another factor. His wife has become too secure. He knows that she is there, that she will continue to be there, that she will probably never leave him. There is no risk of loss. With you, there is uncertainty, there is the possibility of never having, and this activates all the hunting instincts that were dormant in him. Human beings value more what they can lose. So it's not a matter of the wife being inferior to you in any way. It is a matter of basic psychology. It represents the known, the everyday, the harsh reality. You represent the unknown, the fantasy, the possibility of a different life. And in this unfair dispute, the unknown almost always wins. 6. The silent war between duty and desire. There is a battle going on 24 hours a day inside this married man, and no one around notices. On one side is the duty, the vows he made, the family he built, the image he needs to maintain. On the other is desire, you representing everything he really wants but can't have, and this war is consuming him from within. During the day, duty wins. He fulfills his obligations, participates in responsibilities, acts as the exemplary husband that everyone expects him to be. But at night, when he goes to bed and his guard is down, desire invades with full force. You appear in his thoughts without asking permission, bringing with him all that intensity that he tries to repress during the waking hours. Jung understood this conflict as a struggle between the persona and the true self. The persona is the mask we wear to the world, in this case, the responsible married man. The true self is who it really is when no one is looking. And that authentic self wants you with an intensity that frightens itself. The more he tries to stifle that desire, the more powerful he becomes. The most interesting thing is that this conflict has no easy solution. If he chooses duty and forgets you, he will live with the regret of not having followed his heart. If you choose desire and abandon everything for you, you will carry the guilt of having destroyed a family. It's a psychological dead end that keeps him stuck in a cycle of constant indecision. Every social interaction he has reinforces the duty side. The whole society is programmed to say that marriage is sacred, that family comes first, that it must be strong and resist temptations. But every heartbeat of his reinforces the other side, saying that life is too short to live without real passion. He probably fantasizes scenarios where he could have both, keep the family intact and still have you somehow. It's an impossible fantasy, but his mind keeps looking for this magical solution that doesn't exist.